Everyone thought this was just a rap beef. Punchlines, leaked snippets, a few nights of Twitter chaos, and then back to business. But the latest twist turns a lyrical slugfest into a corporate war. A new lawsuit says Drake isn't just trading bars with Kendrick Lamar, he's taking aim at his own house, accusing Universal Music Group of helping push a diss track that painted him as a villain. The Common Story says Kendrick won the summer and Drake took his L. The reality we're unpacking tonight is messier, riskier, and way more expensive. A battle about power, promotion, and who really controls the story when two megastars are signed under the same family of labels. If you thought this feud ended when the diss tracks fell off the charts, you're missing the real game. In this video, we're going to break down what the lawsuit actually tries to prove, why the discovery process could be more damaging than any lyric, the money trail that explains the timing, the quiet turf war inside a global label system, and how this could either be Drake's boldest power move or the panic play that cements his worst year. Start with the legal play, because that's where the reality lives. When an artist sues a label, the headlines sound explosive, but the real action isn't the announcement, it's the discovery. That's the phase where lawyers pry open inboxes, paper trails, and internal memos to test a story against receipts. Drake's team isn't just waving their arms. They're after emails, text chains, and marketing plans that could show who approved what, when, and why. Think about the questions a judge might allow. Who greenlit the campaign around the diss? Who placed the track on key playlists? Which radio pushes happened? What budgets were assigned? And did any partners receive promotional support that coincided with the song's biggest spikes? That's not culture war. That's calendar invites and cost centers. And if you've ever worked inside a big company, you know paper trails don't lie. The moment a court compels disclosure, this stops being about who rapped better and starts being about who pressed send on promotional assets and why. A PR strategist would tell you that once discovery starts, your narrative becomes your emails. Even if the label did nothing unusual, the optics of seeing executives discuss a diss track against their own superstar are brutal. And as damning as that possibility sounds, it's the next point, the conflict of interest bomb, that makes this story feel unprecedented. Here's the shocker. The allegation that Drake's own parent label amplified a rival record that dragged him personally, while both artists operate under the same corporate umbrella. That's not just spicy, it's structural. Most fans don't think in terms of imprints and distribution, but corporations do. And when two titans with overlapping label ties go to war, the company is supposed to be the adult in the room, the institution that manages the fire without getting burned. The claim that a label didn't just stand back for artistic freedom, but actively fueled a diss to maximize attention, streams, and cultural dominance reframes everything we saw on social media. Now, it's not simply Kendrick cooked Drake. It's the label poured gasoline on it. Why would they? Numbers. Think virality, syncs, and year-end award cycles. Think televised moments that boost catalog value and market share. If executives were willing to be hands-on with placement and promotion, especially around tentpole events, then Drake isn't just alleging defamation. He's accusing the machinery that's supposed to protect his brand of monetizing his worst narratives. Even if the label denies every line, the accusation alone changes the temperature in every negotiation room he walks into. Because if you're the artist, what do you trust more, the press quote or the Slack message you might read in court? Now follow the money. The timing of a lawsuit like this isn't random. Megastars renegotiate on cycles, album deliveries, tour seasons, option windows, and the moment when streams, awards, and cultural momentum can swing leverage by 8 or 9 figures. If you're headed into a renewal or a new structure with your label family, and the other side quietly benefits from a narrative that says your era is fading, how hard will they fight to stop that narrative? One school of thought says a label doesn't sabotage a goose that lays golden eggs. Another says the modern music economy is about owning the moment, whichever artist drives the quarter. If the diss track exploded into the biggest viral record of the year, captured headlines, and got major broadcast shine, a corporate planner could argue they were just meeting the market. Drake's lawsuit suggests something uglier, that partners didn't just meet the moment, they manufactured it, moving budget, placement, and airwaves to ensure the narrative stuck. Whether you call that Payola 2.0, marketing, or business as usual, the financial incentive is obvious. If you can juice the track that's already winning, you dominate charts, socials, and ad inventory. Meanwhile, the competitor's brand, yes, even if he's also your star, loses negotiating oxygen. That's leverage. And leverage is money. A music attorney would tell you, you don't sue lightly in this arena. You sue when you believe the promotion itself crossed a line that damaged the long-term value of your name. That brings us to the quiet turf war inside a label group. Fans hear UMG and think monolith. Insiders hear subdivisions, fiefdoms, and historic rivalries between imprints that compete like separate kingdoms under one crown. Artists live on different floors. Marketing teams chase different wins. And even though the same CEO signs off on the big vision, day-to-day decisions flow through silos with their own incentives. If one internal camp is writing a global anthem that defines the year, they're not necessarily babysitting the political feelings of another camp's superstar. That's not malice. That's how big companies behave unless someone draws a bright red line. Drake's case tries to draw that line after the fact, saying the company had a duty to prevent internal incentives from turning into external harm, because the lyrics, imagery, and framing weren't just barbs in a rap battle. They were reputational explosives. From a brand perspective, the question is brutal. When does "let the culture cook" become "we cooked the culture to cook you"? If the emails show executives acting like kingmakers rather than referees, this feud graduates from music history to business school curriculum. And if the emails show restraint or chaos rather than intention, Drake still wins one thing. He puts the company on notice that future internal turf wars could cost real money. But there's a risk here, and it's not small. Defamation is a high bar when you're a public figure. The standard isn't, did this hurt my feelings? It's, did they knowingly push falsehoods with reckless disregard for the truth? The artist who files that suit invites discovery in return. What he knew, what he said, what he approved. If you're Drake, you're betting that the exposure you force is more damaging to the institution than anything they could expose about you. That's why critics are calling this a panic move, a gambit to rewrite the narrative of a feud he lost musically by reframing it as a corporate ambush. Supporters, meanwhile, see it as a line in the sand. If a company profits from painting its own star as a monster, then no artist is safe. Both can be true. What's undeniable is that the court doesn't grade punchlines, it scrutinizes process. Did someone budget for a rollout? Did someone pitch a placement? Did someone push a moment into a TV spectacle? The artist who mastered the algorithm is now arguing the algorithm was weaponized against him by people whose paychecks are tied to his success. That contradiction is the heart of this case, and the soul of the risk. Zoom out, and you can see why this moment matters beyond two legends. Hip-hop culture has always blurred the line between performance and reality, but the business has never been more quantifiable. Streams, spins, slots, syncs. Every spike has an owner. When the most streamed rapper of an era says the spike that hurt him was engineered by his own partners, the implication isn't just betrayal, it's precedent. If courts start looking at diss records the way they look at political ads or corporate smear campaigns, analyzing intent, budgets, distribution paths, you change how major labels interact with culture warfare. Maybe everything stays the same and the suit fizzles. Maybe a judge forces a level of transparency that makes everyone a little more careful the next time two of their stars go head-to-head. Either way, the reality looks nothing like the surface narrative that crowned a winner and moved on. The real winner will be whoever controls the receipts. Now, let's talk strategy on Drake's side, because there's a version of this where he's playing 3 moves ahead. Suing reframes the feud from who had the better record to who had the machine. That's an arena where Drake has always been comfortable. Metrics, marketing, manipulation, because he's been accused of riding those waves for years. By dragging the machine into the light, he dares the culture to admit what everyone privately knows. The machine is real, and it works for whoever it's working for. If he can prove the machine turned against him, he gets to claim moral high ground without out-rapping anyone. For a brand-minded artist, that's the rational bet. It also signals future partners, from tech platforms to broadcast networks, that he expects governance, not just hype. Imagine the next negotiation where he says, I need language that prevents you from promoting content that frames me as a criminal. That's not diva behavior. That's risk management after a reputational wildfire. And yet, if this backfires, it writes its own headline. Superstar sues because he lost the culture. No one wants to be the guy who takes hip-hop to HR. Jurors and judges are still human beings who tap their feet to hits. If the public believes the diss was cultural truth and not corporate agenda, the lawsuit looks like a tantrum with a filing fee. That's why the discovery phase is everything. It needs to show more than marketing. It needs to show intention. Someone betting that torching a brand was worth the quarter's numbers. If Drake can't show that, he risks validating the narrative he's trying to erase. Where does this leave Kendrick? Ironically, probably stronger. If the suit keeps the record in headlines, it cements the song's place in history, not just as a musical nuke, but as a case study in how the industry metabolizes controversy. Kendrick doesn't need to do anything. The corporate fight lifts his most viral moment without costing him a syllable. And if the label wins in court, the message to artists is clear: diss at your own risk. But if it goes nuclear, we're not jumping in front of it for you. That's a chilling message. But in a world where attention is currency, nobody refunds you for lost reputation. So, what's the superior reality behind the headline Drake sues his label? It's that the rap beef you watched on your phone was only the surface. Underneath was a sophisticated network of incentives, placements, and executive decisions that can turn any lyric into a marketing plan. The lawsuit doesn't just argue that Drake was defamed. It argues that a global company profited off defaming one of its own crown jewels. That's not a punchline. That's a business model question. And whether a court agrees or not, the message to every major artist is loud. When the culture turns into a cash machine, make sure you know who's pulling the lever. Because the next diss of the decade might be doing more than beating you on the charts. It might be setting the price of your name. If you came in thinking this was just bars, now you know why executives are losing sleep. This isn't about who rhymed better on a Sunday. It's about who controls the receipts on Monday morning. And as this case crawls through court calendars and discovery deadlines, remember, either Drake forces a level of transparency that changes how labels handle nuclear moments, or the industry learns it can surf reputational carnage with zero penalty. The feud may have given you a song of the year. The lawsuit might give you a decade-long lesson in how the music business really works.